push me DeFi, never on a decline. Building the future, I feel like a savage.
Hello and welcome. I am Piers Ridyard, CEO of RDXWorks, a core developer of the decentralized finance protocol, Radix, a public ledger entirely focused on bringing DeFi into the mainstream. This is our podcast, The DeFi Download, a show about decentralized finance and all things crypto, where we dive into the details of the projects, assets, and services that are powering the DeFi revolution. Today, I am joined by Mark Tillmont, Director of the Pyth Data Foundation. Pyth is a decentralized data infrastructure to ship the future of finance on-chain. It is a data marketplace where data providers can contribute their proprietary pricing information directly to the Oracle, which then becomes permissionlessly available to developers. The Pyth Oracle is available on over 80 blockchains, with over 500 price feeds available across all of those blockchains, and is now securing over $5 billion of value on Ledger. And in the past year, Pyth has supported over $900 billion of cumulative traded volume using the Pyth price feeds. Mark, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me, Piers.
So let's get started with the Pyth story. Like, you were there since day one, 3.5 years ago. And I think that why Pyth was created would be really interesting to understand a bit better. And let me set the stage a little bit, right? 3.5 years ago, Chainlink was already a behemoth, right? Chainlink is always been, since it's fairly close to its inception, the Oracle provider. And everyone, Chainlink is the one that you go to, and that's it. And from an outside perspective, there'd been many contenders at the throne. Many people had come and tried to sort of unseat Chainlink. And they had been relatively unsuccessful. Banned Protocol and a bunch of others. And Chainlink really made its mark by pushing this narrative of data on ledger, data on chain being the thing, and basically created a huge moat by getting all of these partnerships. But the partnerships tended to be within the traditional space, right? Within sort of the enterprise space, Web 2 space, and then partnerships with all of these crypto projects that wanted to have Chainlink's name associated with them than really anything else. But 2020 was DeFi summer. And that's when data on chain and the importance of data on chain really started to change in terms of what the purpose of an Oracle was. So how did Pyth decide 3.5 years ago to go, there's actually a huge opportunity here? Tell me that story.
So you mentioned in 2020, DeFi summer, etc. So actually what almost created that spark was Solana. Because last cycle, and you're right, Ethereum kind of growing from ICO to the first DeFi cycle, Chainlink being the first kind of truly usable, secure Oracle to use, grew insanely. And 2020 came in, and overall what we saw was actually there's room to have very high performance chain. Because back then it was, and still today, Ethereum 12-second block time. So you kind of have, let's say half the Pyth contributors coming from TradFi, you don't need that niche infra to sustain updating price every 12 seconds. With Solana going live and pretty much Anatoly be okay, NASDAQ, blockchain at NASDAQ speed kind of really triggered we're going to need protocols, going to need faster infra. And from this, pretty much it's two other things that kind of combined made us okay, let's go, let's try to ship something like Pyth. Was when we reviewed pretty much the first DeFi cycle protocol, not only you had Ethereum at 12 seconds, but the gas costs were so high that overall price updates were actually done like once an hour. And like, if you're trading derivatives and you tell a TradFi guy, like, okay, I'll give you my updated price every hour, he'll just say, what is this? Like, is it like the phone? I don't know, actually call it in English, where you have two people holding like a can and just telling each other what was the price. So overall came from, okay, 2 days infra in DeFi is first not delivering like performance and is actually will not be able to like reach that speed of light performance TradFi has. So that was kind of the product-based decision. Like there's room for a faster Oracle, a lower latency Oracle. The second realization also comes from kind of the TradFi world where like data, I mean, that's the sec, data is the new oil. And financial data is arguably one of the most, if not the most valuable data out there. Maybe medical data can compete in valuation, but it's not like we're going to sell medical data. But financial data, and if you're from TradFi, like proprietary trading firms hate financial data. Because overall, as a trading firm, you put bids and asks on an order book like SIBO, and pretty much you still have to pay SIBO to buy some data and to get connected there. So overall, you're kind of making them, like you're making their business work. And on top of it, you have to pay for it. And from there, the realization was, as a prop shop that trades Apple stock every millisecond or so on all the US exchange, I can actually derive what's the true price or what's the global price of Apple. And I own this data. In exchanges like SIBO and IZ, they make 25% of their revenue, annual revenue, is actually like selling that. And so these trading firms were like, oh, look, I'm actually sitting on a gold mine now. Like all these data, all my fields, I own them. And I can distribute them, like reselling that. And overall, that like this legal finding almost was kind of the final spark of, okay, if we manage to get, let's say, the 6 biggest trader in the world to kind of commit to contribute their proprietary data to the Oracle, like we actually have like enough breadth to go out there with a product that is reliable both for crypto, but also US stocks, etc. So very much the Pyth stories are coming from this angle.
So let's unpack that a little bit, because there's a lot of dense information in there. Let's start with your statement that financial data is some of the most valuable data in the world. I think that for people who don't necessarily understand the nuance of that, let's look into that in a little bit more detail. What you mean is accurate, timely, and good quality financial data is some of the most valuable data in the world. And the reason that it's valuable is because you want to be able to make trading decisions based on data. So let's like ask the question that is one of my favorite like easy questions to ask and hard questions to answer. And this is my good friend Juan David, sort of like founder of Keyrock, uses this in his interviews when he has new people coming in to interview for his firm. So Keyrock, for those who don't know, big market maker in the crypto space. And the price is the question is what's the price of Bitcoin? And or like, what is the price? And like, it's a deceptively simple question that's really hard to answer. And like, is it the price that, sort of CoinGecko is reporting? Or how are they getting that data, right? Or is it the price on Bitcoin right now, but on Coinbase right now, on Binance, but is it the last traded price? And if it was the last traded price, how long ago did that trade happen, and how good is that still considered to be relevant? Or is it the distance between the bid and the ask? But is the distance between the bid and the ask actually the price because has anyone paid for it? So like millisecond by millisecond, this idea of what is the current price is almost like it becomes almost a philosophical question, right? And what you're basically saying is that the first step is to this: the people who create the price, who know the price, are the people who are making the markets. As in, they are actually the people who are essentially setting the price second by second by their actions on order books. And your key insight here, and I think it's a really important one, is that up until today in financial markets, it was the financial marketplaces themselves who would aggregate that data about all of the bids and asks and the trading information, and then provide that as a data feed back to the market makers and hedge funds and the trading shops. And the trading shops realized, well, actually, my trading data that I'm trading against the exchange, that's my property. So if we can get enough of us together and we share that information in some way, that means that, you're not, I'm not sharing, you're not able to look at the data and go, oh, that is, trading shop A's data and that's trading shop B's data. But I'm able to look at that data and go, collectively, that's all of our data, and all of our data together is giving us the best possible accurate picture of what the price is every single millisecond, because we are essentially the people who are creating the price in the first place, or reacting to trading against whatever the price is that is being demanded by the market, because sells are coming in on the market. And so this realization from all of these companies is that collectively they're able to recreate the data that they want. They just need some way in which they can share that data and then pull back from it, which I think immediately goes to this idea of, well, you need a neutral party. You need someone in the middle who is provably neutral between all of them and is able to provide that service for those people. So let's talk about just that first bit. Like, how did you guys come to meet these trading companies, and what did this start out as an idea, and how did it end up as hey, this should be a decentralized Oracle on top of public ledger, rather than just, hey, this should be a data aggregation service?
So I think early on, the need for Oracle and decentralized Oracle came from everyone's realization, from the early kind of supporters, builders of this, mostly coming from TradFi, or you have, for example, LMAX. So also exchanges was they're all all regulated companies, etc. But they all knew what crypto was and knew what crypto philosophy was. And while, let's say, someone might be like, okay, Virtue, top 3 trader in the world, they can be evil. Arguably, still people many believe they are. And so having the ability to have a very neutral and verifiable, let's say, protocol was for us paramount, because and especially with the last downfall of previous cycle, it was all centralized entities are bad, etc. You cannot just rely on what people say. And so here the idea of having an actual, now it's an app chain, having the Oracle on an actual, let's say, viewable ledger was a way to enforce accountability, verifiability. After, when you and I'll name many names in trust, we have say Jane Street's a publisher, DLW Cumberland, all these guys, while they may trade crypto here and there, many are okay, what's a blockchain? And for them to actually contribute their prices directly on the Oracle, aka a blockchain, sometimes it takes months. But overall, most have understood the end user or the target of this protocol is not, let's say, the usual TradFi crowd. It's developer, it's more tech people than finance people. And they care more about the security, the resilience of it, than the actual data behind. So I think the data behind was they're sticking it to the man, to the data reseller was got, let's say, those trading from more TradFi company on the ship. It makes sense, while not overly focusing on the actual, let's say, okay, how are you going to make your Oracle work in a permissionless and decentralized manner. So some cared, but overall it was more like for many, we opened their mind on, I can actually make money out of my data I was like sitting idle. So I think it was overall we managed to have specific pitch to like specific type of people, companies that overall hit the bullseye. Because if you give too much info to people, you're gonna confuse them, and usually they're gonna be like, okay, I'm not gonna do it. I don't get it.
So it's an interesting line for you guys to balance, is that from the pitch to the data providers is a little different to the pitch to the crypto guys, but at the same time what you want to be doing is creating this two-sided marketplace, right? You want to be able to, like, the reason that you're able to pay the data providers in Pyth tokens come from the fact that there are people who are willing to buy Pyth tokens to be able to access the data in the first place. And I think that you could not have done this business model really any sooner, because there had to have been a active market that really required high quality data within crypto that was better than, an update once an hour. And that really wasn't necessary until you got things like derivatives, like perpetuals, like things like, DYDX or Drift or GMX or Pendle. Like, all of these things required this very high quality data, and at the same time you had the people who were just familiar enough and comfortable enough with the pitch of why a decentralized infrastructure makes sense from neutrality point of view and all this kind of stuff. So it's almost like the perfect moment to be hitting that. So you've got the data providers, which is key, but the market doesn't know that it cares about that yet, right? Like, the market doesn't know that it cares that the question of what is the price is the most important question when it comes to price data. So, like, how did you start to get the crypto market to care? And, like, what were your, like, first wins in the early days of Pyth? And what did you do to, like, differentiate yourself and make yourself better for DeFi builders?
So I think where we were kind of lucky. I mean, it was a planned decision, so I guess it's like good planning. But overall, the V1 of Pyth, like having like the whole idea comes from Solana mainnet in 2020, and overall, the first iteration of the Pyth.Network was done fully on Solana mainnet.
Right.
So the Pyth Oracle was just pretty much a smart contract deploy on the Solana blockchain. And you had publishers that would just submit their prices through regular Solana transaction, and you just had attached like metadata saying Bitcoins equal X, etc. The smart contract just receive inputs, aggregate into an output, which then is freely accessible by anyone on Solana. So there was, let's say, Pyth v1 and we launched for the first Solana hackathon. So it must be April or May 21. And back then, like, first win, and I mean, was you had no other Oracle on Solana.
Right.
We were arguably the first one. And
Right.
it was the first hackathon whereby most of existing and still living apps on Solana today have launched. Drift initially appeared then under another name, Solend, now Save, Mango Markets that's still here and there today. So overall, having been kind of the only go-to Oracle provider on Solana gave us like an unbeatable kind of pitch. Like,
Right.
okay, you go with
the only
Pyth,
game in town, what are you going to do?
or you use something centralized that you create yourself, or you
Right.
recreate and hold. So overall, it was arguably easy as a, let's say, first wins. In like 2020 or last cycle, we all know what Solana did. Pretty much went from $0 to $200. Like, I can't even recall if it was 10 billion or 5 billion in TVA on Solana. So pretty much we were, let's say, riding this Solana wave. But this Solana wave wasn't all smooth. As we know, there was downtimes, etc.,
Yeah.
which also prompted us, like we always wanted this Oracle to not just be for Solana. We just use Solana as the base layer because it was easy to ship, fast to market, etc. But when you had recurring downtimes, it was not, and like we couldn't envision going cross chain, so to all EVMs, to all, and now Aptos 3, while the base layer was still on a chain that could go down here and there.
Right.
And it's not even us caring. It's end of the day, the developers on other chains. Like,
Right.
oh, your Oracle Holy lives on Solana. They'll go down in a week. You won't be able to produce prices. What I'm going to do. So pretty much this is where we had to kind of go back to the drawing board. And Pyth v2 was launched end of 22. And actually there, whether it was again, once again being lucky or another good planning or good design, is so pretty much we forked Solana to have our own app chain, but this is not the most interesting part. The most interesting part is by doing this, we kind of created the first on-demand or full Oracle design. So we had this Oracle program, Oracle network living by itself on an SVM chain that just like produce blocks like every 400 milliseconds. So that has price feeds that update very frequently, as fast as all the other public chain. And from there, the idea was that developer, anyone on any chain would be able to fetch a price from this Oracle app chain, send it by himself on Arbitrum, on Solana, on Ethereum, to then use this price. And coming back to the PERP protocol, that was how you could have actually like low latency Oracle price updates at scale.
Mhm.
Like you never know when a trade's going to happen, and you don't want to proactively spam, because if nothing happens, you just spend money for nothing.
Right.
So second kind of win was, again, product. So this time it was Solana and beyond, but it was on the Oracle product design,
Right.
which pretty much made Pyth the go-to Oracle for perpetual or derivatives protocol.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting, like it's such an interesting nuance of oracles that I find fascinating. I don't know, like I think I'm in a small group of people, but like when Chainlink's Oracle service went live, and the way that the push Oracle service worked is you had to pay for every, like you essentially, the Chainlink model was that someone was paying for the data feed that they wanted on Ledger, and they decided how frequently it was. And sometimes that was paid by the foundation, or sometimes it was paid by a specific app that wanted it. But you had no choice apart from to just continually every so often pay for a new transaction that put the data on Ledger, regardless of whether or not you needed it. And I always thought that model was insane. Like the costs, if you ever looked at it properly, the costs of maintaining a Chainlink Oracle to just provide a data feed for, a simple like pair, where it was updating on an hourly basis on Ethereum, like back in the day, was astronomical. People were paying tens of thousands a month. And so then obviously the right model is, I should have to pay only for the data when I need it, but I should be able to ask for that data as frequently or as infrequently as I want it. And that data should be called by user action. Like if a user does something, then the data should be called, and the cost of that should be included in the thing itself. And as long as the thing itself was delivering value, then it didn't matter. It became a rounding error in the total value that was being delivered. But as a result, the Oracle has a much greater chance to generate huge amounts of revenue when there are successful applications that are calling on needing that data on a high frequency basis, which is, the perfect use case for perps, because, it costs a lot to do an hourly update Oracle. If it's a push Oracle, like it's entirely impractical to have one update every second or every 5 seconds or whatever. So like absolutely the right model. Was the pull Oracle service only possible because you did the app chain, or was that just like a combination of two things, a happy coincidence of technology once that came together?
So, I mean, arguably, we could have done the pull Oracle from the V1 from Solana, let's say V1, we're back in 21. You could have done the same. You would have been a pull from, let's say you're on Arbitrum, you would have pulled from Solana, its mainnet, let's say. Here it was just a different app chain or chain you would call from. So I think maybe we should have said from the early days we wanted the on-demand, but it's also have been Solana, now it's the app chain. But where is actually like showed promise is also like, and on many things you've said that are insanely true, is you have the cost of gas fees, RPCs, and reliable, because like you have to be sure like you'll submit the price updates in time. But it's also the ability to go on so many chains with the same exact product, and for such a little cost. So for example, Pyth, to go to on a new chain, arguably you just need the Pyth receiver smart contract that we call to be deployed. And after it's kind of up to you to use. So it's, and also the great thing is you get the same product catalog on all chain, because there is nothing extra to be enabled. So whether you're on Arbitrum, Optimism, or elsewhere, you'd be able to, okay, I want Tesla, I want Bitcoin, I want ETH, I can do updates whenever I want. And end of day, as those many chains become much cheaper, the point you made on having updates based on user-generated actions is exactly how we've been thinking about it, whereby usually perpetual protocol, how they integrate, I'm going to get wrecked on a trade 100x long or short. I'm going to click on the UI. The UI is going to fetch off chain this price. So, and bundle it into my transaction. And the transaction will be first update the Oracle price, then fulfill my trade. And it's me, the user, that bears the cost. So for some protocols, you actually get a free Oracle, or at least you have your users bear the cost of it.
Yeah, and I think this is it's 100% the right model. So Pyth, through a combination of strategy, luck, and timing, which is almost every successful, sort of like highly successful startup story, has managed to get to this point where you guys are basically the number one Oracle provider in the world right now. I think by sort of by users, by developers, by amount of TVL being secured, by data ingress, and by data quality. So you guys have a token. I know that recently, I think yesterday, you guys had an announcement by Van Eck, who's doing an ETN, an exchange traded note version of the token, which means that now if you're an institutional investor and you're so inclined, you can now get exposure to the Pyth token, which is awesome. I think that there's an increasing amount of like sort of institutional investor interest looking to come into the space. You've seen huge amounts of investor interest in things like the Bitcoin ETF, the Ethereum ETF, and now sort of like exchange traded notes, for those who don't know, is like a step on the path to getting towards sort of like full ETF status. So massive congratulations on that. I know that must have not been fun or quick. And I know that you've also recently come out with a new feature on staking, which is Oracle Integrity Staking. So maybe you could talk just a little bit about that. How's that work?
Yeah, definitely. So it's great that we always say and try to demonstrate where like Pyth has the greatest, most accurate and timely data. It's even better if you actually put money where your mouth is. And so the Pyth DAO last month pretty much approved and released this Pyth Oracle Integrity Staking, OIS for short. And pretty much, so until now, so just TLDR, I think the token launched in November 22, no, 23.
Okay.
And launched, only utility was governance token. So that's the Pyth DAO owns the Oracle like smart contracts, and he has various like powers, like onboarding new publishers, creating new price feeds, deciding on fees, charge, etc. And so last month, Pyth DAO kind of released and launched while at breakpoint. Yes, this OIS, which overall enables either publisher and let's say non-publisher like yourself or myself to delegate their Pyth token on a publisher. And so the whole idea is to actually bring economic security behind the price feed. So that if, let's say, 2 months ago, if the Bitcoin price created by Pyth was saying, okay, Bitcoin's $1 billion right now, that was wrong. That would have been wrong. Overall, you wouldn't have any
$1
kind
billion
of...
per token, you mean, right?
Yeah, exactly. You wouldn't have had like a financial impact, let's say, on the publisher themselves, etc. You would just have completely destroyed bunch of applications that depend on your prices to be accurate.
Right.
With this OIS, the idea is to actually introduce and have that economic security behind it, so that if the prices are ever wrong, publishers at fault and delegators would get slashed, and this money would be allocated for the DAO to kind of do reparations for those who have been impacted by it. And so this is live. I think there is about 250 million Pyth token already delegated in this program. So today's price must be just shy of 100. I'm going to do bad math now. Yeah, it's going to be just below $100 million, but which is already a great start. So that, say, tomorrow there is a misprint on Bitcoin. So wherever you are on these 80 plus blockchains, you might be using Pyth. If the price wrong, you can actually come to the Pyth DAO, ask for kind of reimbursement or counterparty.
So you're basically creating like a data integrity insurance fund of a type. I think that's really clever. I think there was a talk at, I want to say it was at the Science of Blockchain Summit at Stanford 2 years ago about exactly this. Like, if you have a slashing mechanism, don't actually burn the tokens. Use the tokens in some way to recompense the people that are damaged by whatever happened as a result of that action. I think that's definitely the right way of going. And I think it's really interesting that you guys are putting that into effect. So $100 million is definitely not nothing. And it's definitely, I think, really interesting from the point of view of developers who are thinking about, hey, should I rely on the Pyth data? And I think it's a better mechanism than most other mechanisms, because now you're looking at the people who care about, who are going to get affected in case something goes wrong. So that's awesome. What yield are you getting if you're staking at the moment?
So the Pyth Data Association has allocated 100 million Pyth token, and the proposal pretty much capped the rewards at 10%. Publishers do have a 20% delegation fee on it. So practically speaking, as a community member delegating, you get practically 8% rewards. And so 100 million token allocated in overall, and there is a max cap. So I think 1 billion Pyth token, more than 1 billion cannot be staked. Because again, it's also liquid token, and it's not like there are billions of liquid token out there. And so overall, normally it would run for a year at that 10%. But as long as we're below kind of the 1 billion max cap, it will actually, the runway keeps getting longer or gets reused. And the whole idea and the whole goal is, this is great to bootstrap this actual okay, come bring more economic security. And the longer term is like end of day, the Pyth Oracle, the fees the Oracle generates at some point should be in part used there to finance this type of program, I feel.
Yeah. So, super interesting conversation. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Mark. If people want to get started, if you're a developer and you want to get started building with Pyth, where's the best place to go?
docs.pyth.network or the website Pyth.network. You have the docs on the top, and it's fully permissionless. So you don't need to ping whomever to like get access. So play around. Just if you start building, come to our Discord, let us know. Because end of the day, I might not know about you. And we're lucky to have kind of a voice now. And end of the day, Pyth is successful if the app that choose Pyth are successful. So if you use us and I don't know, come tell us in our Discord and we'll make you famous.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mark. And looking forward to speaking to you again soon.
Thanks for having me, Pierce.
Need more utility, then you better call on these guys. I'm going radical, I'm going Radix, I'm going radical, I'm going Radix. Hyperspeed DeFi, never on a decline, building the future, I feel like a savage.